What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of NBA to the Galaxy podcast featuring myself at Scotty Drown is where you can find me on X. You can find my co-host here at RTR30111. He also goes by Slim here on the show. Welcome back to another episode. Obviously, we're going to get into the NBA draft. That's what's relevant right now. Obviously, had the first round yesterday evening, and the second round is currently in progress. Bronny James just got drafted by the Lakers.
Man.
We'll try to keep an eye on that. I mean, nothing too serious coming after the Bronny James news, really, in the second round. Everything else is going to be a project from here. But nonetheless, Bronny James does get to go to the Lakers. Along with that, we're gonna get to talk about, obviously, some of the surprises from the first round, some of the things we saw coming. Who had the best draft overall so far? We can get into that. And then, of course, there were a few trades around the league already to start the offseason here. So we'll talk some Knicks and their moves. And then, of course, the Portland Trailblazers also made a move with the Washington Wizards over the start of the draft as well. So we'll get into all of that. But before we do that, Slim, my man, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. Can't complain. Part two of the draft, and the Warriors made a trade, so to see them actually make a trade was kind of shocking, if I'm being honest. But hey, like I text you like a while ago, not to get my hopes up too high, but I'm doing pretty good, man. I've been enjoying the draft and different trades has been going on across the league. So yeah, man, I'm doing good.
I'm glad to hear that, brother. I'm glad you're enjoying it so far. Obviously, the rumors are swirling. You got a lot of talk on ESPN, especially about the Golden State Warriors right
Yeah,
now,
man. Yeah.
and what moves should they or should they not make. There's a lot of varying opinions out there regarding that. But yeah, it's that time of the year, man. It's that time of the off season where things get exciting. But let's jump into the first round of the NBA draft. I'll just ask you straight up. How did you enjoy your first night of the draft? Did you have something special set up? I know the Warriors. I checked before we got on here. The Warriors didn't have any picks from the looks of it, unless they made any trades that I just didn't see. But did you do anything special for the NBA draft last night? Did you get to tune in at all for it, or were you kind of just you don't really care you to see it? Maybe you just want to see the like who gets picked. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
Do
it
you
was
usually
kind
make
of
a big deal of it?
Yeah, it was kind of a mixture of both. Like, I don't care, but then I was watching it as well because, I
Yeah,
think somebody made a good point. Like, I think this draft was probably like the most unpredictable because we've been honest here. Like,
yeah.
you can make a lot of case for a lot of guys to go to have win number one if we've been honest here. But yeah, man, it was just a mixture of both. Like, different prospects. Was kind of confusing because a lot of guys, the mock drafts, they had this guy going here, but he ended up going here, so it was confusing. Like even Philip from Duke, he didn't even go in the first round,
Yeah.
so it was kind of like a anything could happen type of draft. Like nothing for sure in the sense, like anything was bound to happen. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and
it was an interesting one for sure, man.
I do agree with that, man. I think, the fact that there wasn't this like overwhelming, top of the line draft class, like at the top, right?
Yeah,
It wasn't so there
right.
wasn't this distinct player or a set of players that stood out in this draft. It's kind of like you got to really dig in and make some real evaluations of these players to figure out who's going to be best. And I think a lot of the picks were, when you're talking about teams that are still contending, trying to make the playoffs, those teams are looking for fit. The other teams are just looking for, best potential, the player that's going to be the best in the future. And I think that's kind of what you saw
Yep.
last night as well, with a guy like Dalton Connect falling all the way to the 17th
Yep.
pick. A guy that lit up college, right? Like, especially last
Yeah.
year was arguably the best player in college basketball last year from a scoring standpoint. He falls to 17. So I think there were some surprises in there, but then also you did see the length, the wings, how coveted that position or that skill set really is in the NBA these days. But let's start out here. What was something that really like shocked you in the first round? Maybe it didn't shock you, but maybe caught you a little off guard. I know you mentioned Flip kind of falling, sliding down. Some weird stories along with that. We'll have to talk about that as well.
Yeah.
There's obviously the story with Bronny. There's some weird stories in this draft in general,
Yeah,
but
there is.
was there anything super surprising to you in the first round? Like I know you mentioned how it was kind of unpredictable, so maybe
Yeah.
Something caught you off guard.
For being honest, nothing necessarily just stood out. If I had to like say one just to answer your question, maybe you can make an argument that I didn't predict for, the Spurs to trade what's the guy name?
Yeah, Rob Dillingham.
Rob
His name's so
Dillingham.
simple, the Rob.
Rob Dillingham to the Timberwolves, like, well, at least not for what they got in return. They got like a 2031 draft pick in return, and then some more draft capital moving forward, way down
Yeah,
the line. So you can make a case like I didn't necessarily see that coming because I thought he would have been a pretty good fit alongside Wimby. As they build together, they're pretty young. And I don't think they're
yeah,
going to like win anything as of now anyway. So
yeah,
yeah, I was kind of like in a sense of way, kind of shocked that they decided to trade him. But I mean, that's a huge win for the Timberwolves, in my opinion. Like me, you talk about like they need another scorer or whatever, and this is
yeah,
the perfect guy. Especially like considering the fact like they didn't really have much options going into free agency besides
yeah.
giving out minimum contracts. So for them to do it this way through the draft is a pretty win, in my opinion. Pretty good
Yeah,
win.
no, I do agree with you there. I think first of all, to your first point, yeah, it surprised me when the Spurs traded Rob Dillingham, especially for like a 2030 pick. Like I saw somebody pointed out on Twitter last night, but like Ant Edwards is only going to be like 29 years old at that time. Maybe he's not on the Timberwolves at that time. Maybe it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Maybe the Timberwolves are garbage by then. But as of right now, when you look at it from that standpoint, Ant isn't going anywhere. So I don't think they're going to be at the bottom of the league anytime soon. But you never know. Ultimately, I was just surprised to trade away a talent like that. I thought you have 2 first-round picks in the top 10. You get Stephon Castle at number 4, which I absolutely love that pick. I love him as a player.
Yeah.
But then you also get Rob Dillingham, who's a different style, but still a guard, right? So you get kind of like 2 swings at a really good, like a guard with a really good skill set, but they have differing skill sets. So like I thought it was going to work out perfectly for the Spurs to keep both of those guys. They go against it. They trade him to Minnesota, and like you said on your second point, Minnesota makes out like a bandit. So they get Rob Dillingham, early on in the draft here. And then they go and get Terrence Shannon Jr.,
Yeah,
who is
man.
just another stud, similar to like a Dalton Connect, who I think just simply falls because of their age. Obviously, he had like the case
Yeah,
and
the
everything
case
along
and
with that that was
everything
attached
going
to
on.
him,
Yeah.
which I'm sure drug him down. But taking all of that into account, coming out of the first round, I thought Minnesota Timberwolves had the best draft in the
Yes,
first round,
absolutely. Yeah.
easily, right? Like, is
Yeah,
that
easily.
who
Yeah.
you would pick as well?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you can make case for like the Suns. I
Yeah,
feel like they got a sleeper pick. Dunn, the best defender in this draft, easily in my opinion. That's a huge pickup for them. And even the Nuggets, like picking up, is it Daron Holmes or something like that? Like them,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah. Maybe he can be like the Nas Reef and them coming in off the bench providing that scoring. You never know. So I like those 2 pickups for those 2 teams. But if I had to pick, I would ultimately say the Timberwolves for sure. I mean, you just hit it on the head with all the points for Rod
yeah,
Dillingham and then even like Terrence, like, obviously he was dealing with the allegations or whatever, but he's still a
yeah,
talented young player, man. If
yeah,
and like I just mentioned, like the Timberwolves, they didn't have much going into free agency to go out there and offer, but for them to get it done throughout the draft tells me that they're all in on trying to compete for a championship. So yeah, getting a guy like Terrence for what the price that they got him for is a pretty good deal in my opinion.
I completely agree. Ultimately, looking at what they got, you get Shannon, who is a guy that should be able to step in day one and impact the game. He should be able to get minutes day one. And I think even the same for Rob Dillingham. I think he's a little bit more of a, futuristic, potential base type of pick, but he's a guy that can still come in right away and create and score off the bench. So I agree
Yeah, for
with you
sure.
all around there. I was actually, the reason I was looking down at my phone, I was looking up Terrence Shannon Jr.'s numbers in college, his most recent year: 23 points per game, 4 rebounds, 2.3 assists per game, 80% from the free throw line, 36% from the 3-point line, and
Mm.
47.5% from the field. You add that to Ant Edwards, right?
Mm.
Like that's the stuff that I'm looking at right now. And if
Yeah.
he can come in and just give you half of what he was able to do in college, that's going to impact this team so much. Like you said, we said this coming out of the postseason when Minnesota got eliminated. They needed to add scoring to this roster, and they
Yeah,
did
for
that with
sure.
both of these picks here. Some other surprise. I don't want to call it a surprise, but something I commented on. I think on our last show, I get confused. I've been on a couple different shows lately, but
Yeah,
I believe we talked about this in the last show. But Reed Shepard going number 3 to Houston.
yeah,
I'm I'm not trying to hate on the kid at all. I'm not. I watched him at Kentucky. He was great in college, but he did just to me seem like a guy that is more of a college player. And I can't wrap my head around in this draft how he goes number 3. I really can't. Seeing some of the other guards that he went over in the draft, the guy right after him, quite honestly, Stephon Castle. I mean, you're talking
yeah,
about a 6'5" guard that can lock down. I get it though. Reed Shepard, they're two different types of guards.
yeah,
Reed
yeah,
Shepard's the efficient playmaker, shooter.
yeah,
He can do all of that stuff on offense, but it's interesting in a world where small guards tend to struggle.
yeah.
It was interesting that he goes number 3. But Stephon Castle, I mentioned that. I think that fit with Wemby. You talk about defense and adding to that. I think he's going to be great in San Antonio there. The other one that I liked in the top 10, man, aside from Rob Dillingham and Stephon Castle, was the Donovan Clingan pick. I think I
Yeah,
would
I
have
love
liked
it. Yeah,
anywhere he went, but going to Portland, I really, really like that fit for some reason out there. He gets to kind of groom under that Bill Walton shadow
yeah.
out there in Portland. But how do you think? How do you feel about those two guys specifically, like the Stephon Castle fit in San Antonio, and then Donovan Clingan um, going to UConn or going to Portland, and anything else that stuck out to you in the top
Okay.
10 there?
Well, I'll start off with Ben. Okay, start there. So it's kind of confusing, man, because I mentioned this last week. Like, you would think that the Rockets got like, some type of decision to make because they have a lot of lottery picks over there, man. Guys that
Yeah,
be fighting for minutes or whatever. So a report came out that they were interested in trading for KD. They had the
yeah, yeah,
yeah, they got the number 3 pick, which ultimately ended to be Ben Shepherd or whatever. But yeah, it's interesting. Like maybe they look to potentially move Jalen Green, maybe if the right deal come across, or even Shangoon. It just
yeah,
depends on because it's always that they're trying to like compete now. Like you
yeah,
paid Fab Van Vliet last season, you got Dylan Brooks, you just got Steven Adams, so like they're in a win now type of mode, which I can understand that because they ended the season out pretty well last season. So
yeah,
that's something that you can definitely build off of for sure. But to your point about Ben, you do got a point like as far as like will his college game translate over? Because
yeah,
he has shown different at times that can he be NBA ready or not, and you definitely got a point. But maybe he killed his workout with the Rockets, and that was pretty impressive. Like
yeah,
I mean, he
yeah,
did shoot like what 57% from 3-point range in college, so
yeah.
that's pretty impressive.
The percentages are great.
Impressive.
I will give him that from the
Yeah,
efficiency standpoint. He is great,
yeah.
and
So maybe he can fit in with them playing off the ball alongside Jalen Green or Shangoon, whoever it is. But it's an interesting pick for sure. But with Clink, Donovan, like I was actually shocked that the Trailblazers took him, man. I thought he was going to the Grizzlies, man. I'm not gonna lie. But you say like going down there, I feel like he'll do pretty good. No expectations down there in Portland. He
yeah,
should go out there
that's
just
what I like about it.
with an open mind, go down there and put up pretty good numbers. There shouldn't be no pressure or anything. So I actually like the fit for him. I would have loved him to go to Memphis better though,
Yeah,
but
I feel you there. I
yeah,
feel you
it worked out. Now with Stephon though, like defensively, him and Wimby have the potential to be a nice defensive duo, man. Like for real,
there. Yeah,
because he just gets after it. He's athletic. He got that dog in him. So
gives me Drew Holiday vibes.
yeah, I was gonna say like eventually down the line like a Drew Holiday, Marcus
Yeah,
Smart type of defender.
yeah, yeah. I
Just
agree.
just the consistent reps in the NBA to help him get there for sure. And then another name who probably stuck out to me is probably like Zach, man, Zach Eddy. Like to him to go to the Grizzlies, man, I actually like that. Like I know a lot of guys really don't understand the fit because the Grizz like to get up and down the court or whatever, and
Yeah,
Zach is a tall guy who weighed like 300 pounds. I don't know if he's going to be able to keep up, but I actually like that pick, man. Get him something different on the offensive end. A guy who you can throw the ball to down low, potentially get you a bucket. So That's a name who probably stands out to me the most, who caught my attention. Besides the names that you mentioned.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree. I'm on the opposite end of the Zach Edey conversation. I don't see it with him. Um, but I do think it was good that you pointed out about Donovan Clingan and Memphis's, like, the way it looked going into the draft, him falling
Yeah,
to them and that being the perfect pick, because it does make me wonder, Portland just taking him a little bit earlier or at 7.
right.
Did that cause Memphis to kind of
I think
backtrack
so,
or,
man. I'm not
you
gonna
know,
lie. I really
take another
believe that
center?
because I honestly thought that, like, just some of the tweets I was seeing on X, man. Like, I really think that the Grizzlies thought they had him, man. Like,
Yeah,
for the reports I was reading,
yeah.
yeah, I think they thought they had him, man. So, but hey,
And I
you gotta
think,
always be prepared, man.
that's where things get interesting, because when you look at Donovan Clingan and Zach Edey, these are completely different types of players, right?
Yeah, completely
And I
different.
look at Donovan Clingan and I think, man, him next to Triple J would have been crazy defensively. And
Yeah.
this Genwill, let me know if I'm saying the name wrong there, has a question for us. How do we think the centers drafted settle in with their new teams? Is there concerns with Zach Edey and Jaren Jackson Jr. or Missy and Zion Williamson? So what are your thoughts there? Let's start with Edey and Triple J, just because that's kind of where we are right now. When
Yeah.
you look at the pairing specifically between those two players, how do you feel that worked? The reason I say Klingon might have been the better fit is just because Triple J is more of like a floor spacer as an
Yeah.
offensive player, where Donovan Klingon could be that inside force, but could still work with Zach Edey. What are
Yeah.
your thoughts there?
I feel like it'll be a pretty good duo amongst those. Like you mentioned, like Triple J can, stretch the floor, and then, Zach, he can get the ball down low, and he's pretty big, so he can post up, potentially get you a bucket or whatever. So I actually like the pairing. Now, is there any concerns? Off the top of my head, I would have to say no. At least not now anyway. I don't see anything that would be a concern as far as those two being
Yeah,
paired alongside each other. So yeah, I would have to say no as of right now.
it is interesting. Like, he's a top 10 pick, and I'm talking about Zach Edey. He's
Yeah,
a top 10 pick. Does he come in and start for them? Like, I'm
I would
blanking
have
on who
to.
their starting center is right
Yeah, I
now.
would have to say so because Triple J was their starting center to end the season. So
Right, and he's
I
not
would.
a center. We know
Yeah,
that.
yeah, he's not a
So,
center. Yeah, yeah. I
and
feel
what
like it's
about?
his spot to lose.
Oh yeah. I would tend to agree with you. What about the other part of the question here? So we're talking about Yves, Misi. If I'm saying the name wrong, I apologize. And
Yeah,
Zion
yeah,
Williamson, the center out of Baylor.
yeah.
Any
So
fit issues there you see? It's a lot of
don't feel
athletics.
bad, man, because a lot of these names has been confusing me, bro. I'm not gonna lie, bro. like,
The game is going completely
yeah,
international. It's getting crazy out here, I will
yeah,
say.
it really is. But he can't shoot, correct?
I don't believe so. I'm looking up his numbers right now. Let me get them pulled up here. College numbers last year. Nah, he's not the shooting type.
Well,
Stays in the paint. Yeah, not a great free throw
yeah.
shooter.
So unless Zion just become an elite stretch big this upcoming season, that would be probably my only concern. Because I will say this: the rookie, Messa, however you say it, he is a pretty good screen setter. I have watched a few of his clips, so that could be something good. And he is tough nose. He gets some
Yeah,
rebounds. Get physical with
it'd be
you.
interesting
Block
if they
shots.
like decide to bring back Valanciunas.
Yeah, that is interesting for sure.
He could go.
They
He
have a
could
decision
go
to make.
somewhere else. Yeah, exactly. And I wanted to look up Edie's numbers here too, just to give us an idea of what Memphis is working with here now. Obviously, one of the best, if not the best, college basketball player last year. 25 points per game, 12 rebounds per game, 2 blocks per game. So put up monster numbers at Purdue for sure. They were one of the bigger contenders last year in college basketball. Zach Edey, I'm not the highest on him, but we'll see. He could. He has a scoring touch. I will give him
Yeah,
that.
man. Him and Ja in the pick and roll, that should be pretty
Could be
nice.
interesting,
Yeah,
right? And then
it could be
Jaren
nice.
Jackson Jr. spacing the floor a little
Yeah,
bit.
you then got Desmond Bain out there, Marcus Smart. So
It is interesting. I forget about the Grizzlies, right? Like they were just completely injured last year and
Yeah.
completely
And
ineffective to that point.
yeah, I feel like they're going to be a way better team. They got to get some more pieces though, for sure.
We are going to talk Knicks in just a few moments. Once we get done with the draft here, we will get into some of the trades that happen and
Yes,
some of the
sir.
deals the Knicks have made recently. So definitely stay tuned. We'll definitely get into that. Got another question from Jinwil. Hey, let me know what the name is. I don't want to keep
Let's
on
just call
butchering
him
it.
G for now. Just call him
Yeah, we'll
G.
call you G. What do you guys think about the Khalil Ware fit with the Heat? Barring any trades, our lineup for next season could be Rozier, Hero, Jimmy, Topic, and Bam, or
Okay,
Rozier, Hero,
so
Jimmy, Bam, Ware.
I'm seeing that they are prepared to lose Caleb Martin in free agency because I seen that he's opting out of his contract. So
Interesting.
that's very
Sixers need to
interesting.
go get on that, I would say.
Yeah, but I feel like it's a good fit. I mean, he can shoot, so he's a pretty mobile, seem to be pretty mobile big man. Pretty rebound. He can rebound, athletic. I
Oh,
feel
they
like it'd
just
be
messed my head up. They said top. Okay, and then they corrected it down here. It is Nikola Jovic is who they have.
yeah. They drafted him like a few seasons ago, so.
Yeah, and then Tope. Okay, I was getting confused by the names in the comment here. Because
Yeah, so I actually like that draft pick of where is it? Where?
yeah, Khalil Ware.
Yeah, I actually like that because then you could potentially play him and Bam, just depending on certain matchups. Because like
Yeah,
I said, he can shoot the ball, so it could turn out to
that
be
was
pretty good. I actually
interesting.
like it.
It was interesting because, like, at first when I was looking at it, I see them draft him, and mind you, I'm sitting there at the pick right behind him, and I'm just praying that like Dalton Connect or Jared McCain falls into the
Yeah.
Sixers' laps. Um, they go out there, they draft a center, which completely caught me off guard. And immediately, mind you, I was being dumb in the moment. I think I was just overreacting, but I was like, damn, are they moving on from Bam Adebayo? I know that sounds crazy. Uh, but
My dog,
what
Bam,
would
man.
the talk be if the Sixers drafted a center in the first round and they have Joel Embiid and he's all, you know what I mean? Like I don't know what conversations would pop
Well, from
up.
the outside looking in, I would probably say like they're probably looking to move off a Paul Reed contract, So
Yeah, they did draft a center in the second round. So to be fair, there, but the Heat are interesting, man. Once again, they draft a versatile guy, a guy that can slide right in and contribute immediately. Similar to Jaime Jaquez Jr. last season. That's another guy. You ask who might be starting for them next year. I mean, could he start at power
he
forward? I mean,
could,
he's a
but
pretty gritty guy.
I think you would probably put Jimmy at the 4, maybe, and then put him at the 3. Just depending on
Yeah,
how it goes.
yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Rozier, Hero,
And
Jimmy.
shout out Bam though. He just got the extension, man. Shout out Bam.
Yeah, facts. He got the bag. So that like shut me up immediately before I could even get that thought formed. They had him extended already. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. They said if the Sixers drafted a center, more help for Embiid. Yeah, I agree with everything they said here. More about the Sixers than I like to discuss right
Yeah,
now.
shout
As far
out
as I
to G,
run it.
man. Great questions, bro. We love the interaction thing we got going on.
Absolutely. That's a
Yeah.
great point, Slim. And to everybody else out there watching right now, it looks like we have about 32 viewers in here at the moment. Be sure to head over to the YouTube channel so we can see your comments. If you're commenting on Twitter, we cannot see them on StreamYard here. So be sure to head over to YouTube and get involved in the show. But thank you, G, for stepping up to the plate and giving us some extra topics here, man. I do want to kind of gravitate back to the top of the draft because I feel like we just skipped over the number 1, number 2 picks here.
Yeah.
The 2 French guys.
Yeah, the 2
Zachary
Frenchmen,
Rezichier. Once again, names.
Yeah.
Alex Sarr is pretty simple. I can get that.
It's pretty.
What were your thoughts? What were your thoughts there with the first 2 picks in the draft? What are your thoughts about them both being French? You had Wemby last year, number 1 pick. 2 French picks to start the draft this year. France kind of taking over.
Yeah, I was finna say it's like a French thing. They're trying to take over, man. They're trying to have their brother Rudy Gobert back, man, because
Right.
because it if Draymond tries something else, man, I'm gonna feel bad for him, bro. Because those French guys are not going to play with him. But um, my thoughts, like Zach going number one, I feel like it was kind of a no brainer considering the fact that Sarr didn't work out with the Hawks at all. So
Yeah,
some people kind of looked at it as a potential smoke screen type of thing. Like, but I was like, no, I don't think this is that type of situation. So
yeah,
it was a no brainer. I felt like, but I feel like he'd be a nice fit for them. I feel like they're going to make more moves though, for sure. It's just interesting to see like what direction they're going to look to head in, like
yeah,
rebuilding, contending or whatever. But overall, I actually like him going to the Hawks. I feel like it's a piece that they could definitely build around for sure. And with
yeah,
Sar, I like him going to the Wizards. Like they're in a rebuilding mode right now. You got some nice young pieces over there as well. You still got Jordan Poole, and they traded Ogre yesterday, Denny Ogre, to the
yeah. That one was
Trailblazers. So
surprising. That was
yeah,
surprising.
so did they get the 14th pick in that deal? I think.
Yeah, which ended up being Bub Carrington.
Yeah, so they got some pretty nice pieces, man. So I actually like him going to Washington. No
Yeah.
expectations, no pressure, so he should be able to go down there and ball out.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree with you there. I think one thing the Zachary draft pick
Yeah,
says to me,
Zachary. Zachary.
one thing that says to me, man, is that they're going to be moving off of like one of DeAndre Hunter, the Sadiq Bays,
Yeah,
right?
Clint
Like they're moving,
Capella.
yeah,
Yeah,
they're moving off some of those
Bogdanovich.
contracts. Got to this year. Obviously the Trey Young rumors have circulated as well.
Yeah.
DeJounte, obviously a highly coveted player as well, but interesting with the Washington Wizards and that Alex Sarr pick. The reason I say it's interesting is because you look at next year's draft, and there's a lot of talk about teams gearing up for next year's draft and Cooper Flag and the number one pick next year. Obviously, the Nets just got a boatload of first round picks.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of talk before this draft about going into next year's draft. A lot of teams are going to be tanking next year to try to get a top pick. The reason I find Washington, I imagine they're going to be in a much similar situation next offseason as far as their draft situation. So if their goal is to get, like a Cooper Flag, I just don't know how that fits with Alex Sarr. But no time to think about that. No time to think about hypotheticals in that sense. Interesting enough, though, I'm glad you guys pointed that out about the workout situation with Alex Sarr, because for my money, that would be the guy that I would have drafted number one.
Yeah, I definitely would have considering it like it would have been an upgrade over Clint Capella easily, in my opinion. But I'm glad that you brought that up, man. Because who got drafted to the Pistons again? If you know,
In the top 10, the number 5
yeah,
pick,
the
Ron
number 5.
Holland out of the G
Yeah,
League.
so I don't think a lot of Pistons fans are pleased with that pick, man, because
Interesting.
I think it was a more so like a spacing thing. Because Ashur
Fair,
Thompson, he's not
fair.
not an elite 3-point shooter. Then you add Ron Holland to the mix. So and plus you got Duran who's still there. So it's interesting, man, for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, even Cade is not like
Yeah,
he's not a prolific 3-point shooter. You know what I mean? So it is a little odd in that sense. That's a good point, because I was looking at the pick. I mean, the player I like. I think in this day and age, in this era, you're looking for wings. This guy fills that void. But that's actually a really good point. That's a little clunky. Yeah, he's a 6'7" wing from the G League Ignite. Just trying to look up his numbers here, but
yeah.
it's interesting. I'm curious who they would have wanted instead of him. Maybe one of these floor spacers below them.
I think so. What was
One other thing I wanted to point out in the top 10. I mentioned the two at the top from France that were drafted, but also the number 6 pick in the draft was also from France. Tidjane,
Yeah, he went to the Hornets,
Tidjane
right?
Salone. Yeah. Went to the Charlotte Hornets.
Yeah.
Butchering names on here, though.
Yeah, it's a lot of names, bro. And I actually like that. I actually like that pick that the Bulls got too, man. I feel like that was a pretty good pickup. I actually would like him to go to the Pistons, though. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, yeah. I was looking at some of his highlights. I don't know a ton about him, but stretching the floor, athleticism. I like that type of player in this day and age. I agree with you there. His name is Matas Buzelis.
Yeah.
He came from the G League Ignite as well. Obviously, I gotta go to my team's pick here. Obviously, we got to talk about it a little bit. There was a lot of I don't want to say drama, just conversation.
I'm glad you brought this up.
There's a lot of conversation in
man.
Sixers Twitter last night just around like fingernail polish, dog. And you know why I'm kind of fed up with it. You see my hat. I'm a Duke fan. I'm a Sixers fan. So this is like two worlds meet in one.
Yeah.
I've already went through the nail polish and the TikTok dancing thing with Duke fans and why I feel that this shit just does not matter on the basketball court. So now I'm having to like revisit this same topic with the Sixers now and Sixers fans. And obviously, I'm excited as hell to have Jared McCain on my team. I remember watching him in the tournament, and I watched him spray paint, JMU. I watched him spray paint NC State at a certain point. And I was like, man, if I could put this type of shooter next to Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, that would be a dream. Luckily, this man falls to us at number 16. Fans were a little upset. You take him over Dalton Connect, the more NBA-ready player you would imagine, right? And Dalton Connect, the older player, a little bit more mature, has more experience, but they go with Jared McCain, the 19-year-old, still brings that shooting aspect. What are your thoughts around that pick? How do you feel my Sixers did there?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I was actually going to bring that to you, man. A lot of your Sixers fans, they was not happy with that pick, bro. Like
it's interesting.
They didn't really like it. And you brought up a good point, like with the fingernails and all that stuff. Like, it's an opinion thing. Like, I feel like at the end of the day, it doesn't really affect him, his basketball talent. Like, he's still a pretty good player. So
like, I wouldn't paint my nails, to be clear. I would not paint my nails.
Yeah.
But I don't care, like, if he does. You know what I mean? Like, it's not my business.
Yeah, and then I seen that, and then they got a problem with him being like this TikTok star or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
the dancing.
Yeah, they was bringing all that up. I seen all that in the comments, but honestly, I actually like that pick for you. I feel like he can, feed off of Joel, and as you mentioned, Maxey, pretty good. Like he a pretty good shooter, playing off the ball, or even on the ball to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you could argue that y'all could have went with Dalton Connect, but
yeah,
I mean, I feel like, it wasn't a bad pick. Y'all picking McCain over him. It's not like Dotson is just levels above McCann like that. So
yeah,
I feel like y'all did a pretty good job picking him. Like, especially like considering the fact that y'all only have like what 3 players on the roster. Like,
that's the thing, man.
So I mean, it's not like a guarantee that Kyle Lowry is going to be back or Campaign going to be back. Like, you're just thinking like, based on what you currently have. So I actually like that pick for y'all.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. You bring up Campaign. He got into some trouble. I forget what the story was. It was a weird one.
Yeah, it was like
a weird one.
I think it was like fake identity or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, man. It was something like, why are you doing this as an NBA player? Like, what has
maybe he was bored, man. Maybe it's like a side quest type of thing. Who knows, man?
Yeah, you never know, man. But yeah, I obviously love the pick. I think there is an argument for Dalton Connect over Jared McCain. I'm willing to hear that. It's the people that say like trade Embiid because you used your draft pick. Like, I can't hear that. There's people out there that don't think Jared McCain can make an impact day one for the 76ers. I'm not in that camp, but I have no problem with the Sixers kind of, paying it forward a little bit and preparing a little bit for after Joel Embiid, right? Like, he's injury prone. Like, we don't know how long Embiid is really gonna last. So to like sell all of your, your assets and not get a little bit younger is just really weird to me. And I'm excited to have like a first round pick. Like, our last pick that really made an impact was Tyrese Maxey in the first round. And it's refreshing to have youth on the squad, like dealing with Nico Batum and Kyle Lowry and James Harden before that, like just dealing with all of these old heads, man, these slow, like
PJ Tucker
energy. I'm tired of that stuff. I want some youth.
Yeah, that's the way to go though in today's league, bro. Like, you got to match the youth, bro. Like, these guys, they're young, they get after it, so you got to match the league energy, man.
I do agree. What do you think of the fit for the other guy in this situation, Dalton Connect in LA? Because like I said, I still think that's a great pick, especially at 17. This is a guy that was mocked as high as like 6 in
Yeah.
some mock drafts out there. So he goes to the Lakers. What are your thoughts on that fit?
I actually like it. I feel like it'll be a pretty good place for him, to start his career. I
Yeah.
feel like him feeding off LeBron and AD, he can learn a lot from them. So it's just an overall nice fit. He is like you could argue the most NBA rated player now. So yeah, I mean the Lakers, the situation they in, they're trying to compete for a championship. So I feel like he's the best young player to add to that team. So and then I seen a report that JJ Redick was drawing up X's and O's for him after they drafted him. So
That
yeah,
would
it's
not surprise me. That would
yeah,
not
it's
surprise
interesting.
me.
So I like it though. So yeah.
It was I'm glad you brought up JJ Redick. We got the comment here from G, Bronny. Obviously we talked about it at the beginning of the show. Bronny went to the Lakers with the 55th pick. It was interesting seeing the Lakers draft room when they're making that pick, seeing JJ Redick in there. He's got like on a Lakers, polo, got the Lakers cap on, the full sleeve tatted on him, man. He just looks so young for like
Yeah.
a head basketball coach for the
Yeah.
LA
JJ
Lakers.
Redick,
But
man.
seeing how happy he was to pick Bronny James was very interesting. I know that whole building had to be ecstatic, but they got a little dirty before the pick was made, man. They were putting reports out there. Rich
Yeah,
Paul
they did.
was saying
They
he was
did, man. They
not going to
did.
join any other team. He would go play in Australia if you didn't let him fall to the Lakers, man. What are your thoughts on that? How ironic that Bronny James goes to the Lakers in
I
the
mean,
second round.
it was a mind games thing at that point. I mean, honestly, like as far as the second round go, if Brunny didn't go like top 10 in the about like top 15, maybe 20 in the second round, you just knew he was going to the Lakers at that point because it's just attention to detail. Like a while back, Rich Paul stated that if Brunny don't get drafted, that they're not signing any two-way contracts or anything of that nature. So that there alone will let you know, like, okay, like if he don't go if he don't go to the first round or like a top second round pick, he's going to the Lakers. Like, and like the point you just
Yeah,
mentioned, like if anybody else
sure.
pick him, he's going to go play to Australia or whatever. So it just was a mind games type of thing, man. But good for Brandon. This is a first father and son duo that ever play with each other in the NBA. So, hey, shout out to Brandon though.
Facts, man. You brought up a great point. I'm going to give you some credit here because I was going to come into this kind of looking in the opposite direction. I was going to go in a different route because there is part of me that just doesn't like the power that the Lakers and Rich Paul and all in this whole situation has kind of struck over the NBA as far as colluding and collusion in the draft. But I think you make a great point. Like if you want Bronny James, then draft him, in a situation that he finds appeasable. Like you got to meet in the middle in this day and age. And I think that is fair. And I think when you look
Yeah.
at what's best for the player or for the kid, it probably is going to the Lakers and playing with his father and learning beside it. I mean, maybe it's the opposite, but I would tend to think this would be a dream come true. He's going to go in there and work hard as hell. He's going to get held to an even higher standard by his own father, I would imagine, than any coach could ever hold him to. So I do think it could end up being, the best route for Bronny James' career. So to that point, to your point, I'll agree with you, man. I think at the end of the day, should it be surprising? No, especially once he fell to the second round. It's interesting how much power specifically Rich Paul has
Yeah.
in the NBA, man. Like
that was wild though, bro. Like Bob Myers was saying this. I was like, damn, bro.
the racist allegations. Yeah, those got shot down super quick. I don't know where that came from.
Let's talk
Bronny
about these
James.
Knicks though, man. Like, how about those
Yeah,
Knicks?
yeah, you're right. You're right. Let me just point out a few other picks I liked, and we can move straight to the Knicks, man. Keyshawn George, he ends up gets traded all around out of Miami, goes to the Washington Wizards ultimately. We mentioned Terrence Shannon Jr. at the number 27 pick to Minnesota. Isaiah Collier, I don't know if I'm saying his name
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
but
going to
out of
Utah.
USC.
Yeah.
He was a guard that I really liked coming into this draft. He goes to
Oh,
Utah.
J Dub little brother Jalen Williams.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Cody
like that
Williams.
pick. Yeah, I
Went
like
to
that pick. Him going to
went to
Utah.
Utah.
Yeah, and Flip went to Utah too. Second
Yeah,
round pick.
so
Yeah, so
pretty
yeah, pretty
decent
good
draft for
picks. Yeah,
Utah.
yeah,
Did they get anybody else later on? It should be over by now.
yeah. It should be over by now. They probably did though. Ain't no telling though. I don't think they had any more late picks though.
Nah, they didn't. They didn't.
So Reggie Jackson got traded to the Hornets for 3 second round picks.
Interesting.
Yeah,
That's probably going to be a salary dump, or
yeah,
maybe they
because
keep him around
KCP
and
going to
they're
test
in
free
private.
agency, man. Maybe y'all
True.
Sixers go out there and get him. You know, I mean, maybe your Sixers go out there and get him.
You know, I got my eyes on bigger things, but I mean, back of the bench, I mean, off the bench, that's pretty
Oh hell
solid.
no, he's gonna start. He gonna go
Better
out.
than
He
a
gonna
campaign.
no. He gonna guard ball for y'all, bro. KCP, man.
KCP now, yeah, I'm with that.
Yeah,
I'm with that.
I said KCP. I'm not
Oh,
talking
I
about
thought you were
Reggie.
saying Reggie Jackson. My bad.
Hell no.
No, I'm like,
Hell
what?
no, bro.
Like, no, I'm not with
Hell
that. But
no.
yeah, KCP, I'm
No.
with that. I'm with him starting next to Maxey. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's a
he can
great
guard
fit.
ball for y'all. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that's a great fit. Um, let's talk about the Knicks,
Yeah,
man.
let's
Let's get
talk about
into
it,
it. Let's
man.
dig into it.
Yeah, man. Let's
Uh,
talk about it.
the Knicks go out there, they get their guy, right? It was destiny. It was destined to happen. They
Yep.
go out, they get Mikal Bridges. They do give up, 5 first-round picks to the
Yes.
Brooklyn Nets. At first, I'll be honest, man, and I'll throw this to you. At first, I was really pissed. Like, I was pissed with the NBA because I just think this Villanova shit in New York is just super corny. Like, and once again, it's the same way I was feeling about the collusion with LeBron and his family. That's how I feel about the Villanova
Yeah.
products in New York right
Yeah.
now and how they're forming this team together up in New York. But
Yeah.
afterwards, I got over it. At the end of the day, I think, yes, good trade probably both ways. I think they did overpay a little bit or a lot for Mikal Bridges, but that's the team that does it, if that makes sense. But I'll throw this to you. What are your thoughts on the moves that they've made, specifically to Mikal Bridges? Then we can get into OG.
Okay. Yeah, like you mentioned, I feel like it's a win for both sides because up to that point, I don't think that the Nets even have any of their draft picks up until this point. So
Yeah,
they would just be losing and they don't even have control over their own picks. So for them to get that is huge, man. So shout out to them for coming to their senses and getting this done. But
yeah,
yeah, man. I mean, the way I look at it from a Knicks standpoint, like, I mean, they're just going all in. Like, this is, if they see that this is a window that they can potentially produce one, maybe two championships out of. I mean, you got to go all in. Like,
yeah,
they've read Brunson as their guy, the number one guy, to lead them to the championship. You still got Julius Randle after all of this, and Josh Hart and Dante. So Adam McHale, like you mentioned, the Villanova thing, like, it is nice to see, but I do get your point on, like, the corniness of
for
it too.
Philly
Like,
fans specifically, it's just really corny given, where Villanova is located. But yeah,
yeah, but
it is a little personal, I guess.
yeah, I like it because it is something that you rarely see nowadays. Like guys from
Yeah,
college, well, to be more exact, guys who won a college championship, like be on the same roster, in the NBA.
yeah,
So yeah, but I mean, you know what you're gonna get from McHale. Like he's never going to miss a game. He's gonna go
yeah.
out there, play defense, shoot the ball. Pretty much do everything. We've been honest. So, but I love this pick up for the Knicks though, for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think ultimately it's a deal that you kind of had to make for both sides. Like if you're the Knicks and you get offered that, you have to take Mikal Bridges. You know that they want to create that core four there. And if you're the Brooklyn Nets, you obviously need the picks for where you're going. So
Yeah.
I do feel you there. And I think when you look at the Knicks, I say the Villanova stuff is corny. Here I am over here in Philly. I'm trying to build this Duke squad. So I say it's corny. I want to do the same thing in Philadelphia, but with Duke. I want to bring Brandon Ingram up from New Orleans. I want to sign Gary Trent Jr. and Luke Kennard, and we can really get things popping over here in Philly from a Duke standpoint. But to that point with Villanova in the New York Knicks, I think all personal judgments aside, it was the right move to make. I think this right here is interesting because you saw whenever Mikal Bridges first went over to the Nets, that 26, 27 game span, to end the season when he first got traded, going off, averaged over 26 points
Yeah,
per
he
game,
did.
shot really well. Was playing like an all-star, a superstar almost, right? Last year takes a little step back, but he's playing on a team that's really not going anywhere. I think that is kind of going to depend on how this goes. And what I mean by that is, can Mikal Bridges be that second all-star on the team along with Jalen Brunson? Dante DiVincenzo is a good player, right? When you talk about that Villanova core. Josh Hart is like the epitome of glue guy, the best in the world when it comes to being a role player.
Right.
But
Starring his
neither of
role.
those guys are all stars, right? They're not stars.
Right.
Can Mikal Bridges be that guy? Julius Randle obviously has been an all-star in the past. I know I'm not bringing him up. I just don't know if they keep him. Maybe they do.
Yeah, that's a
I don't
big
know.
thing too, man. I don't know if it's tough because they have some decisions to make. Because do you keep Randall Robinson
Who's
and
your
guys?
starting lineup?
Yeah, and then Isaiah Hartenstein thing, like he's a free
Right.
agent. So
And I think he's a big one that is kind of
yeah,
getting
he is,
undersold
man.
in the situation. But I did see a report today that he is considering taking a little bit less than what he would get on the open market to stay with the Knicks.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
That could be crazy. And if I'm the Knicks, I would literally trade Mitchell Robinson and I would sign Hartenstein back if I could.
Yeah, for
Like
sure.
if that's possible, I'm doing that. Because
Yeah.
that lineup sounds crazy. And I'm talking about Jalen Brunson, Dante DiVincenzo, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, and Isaiah Hartenstein.
Man, you literally just brought up a good. I forgot about OG just that quick.
Yeah.
Because when you brought up Randall, I was like, okay, he could be your four-man, but then you just brought up OG, so
Yeah, OG's not coming off the bench with that contract.
Not with that type of money. No way, bro. No way. But yeah,
So that's
with
interesting, man.
Mikal
Like, do
though,
they keep
like
Randall?
with
Go ahead.
Mikal, he did start to struggle, like to end the season this past season. But I think it was just more so like just no motivation being in
Yeah,
Brooklyn, man. You know, it's not winning basketball there at the
yeah.
moment. So I guess I can understand like him taking a step back. But I know Cam Thomas, man, that brother gonna be shooting like 50 shots a night, man, easily.
With
So
no worries.
yeah, Cam ain't shit funny Thomas.
I'm hoping that the Nets end up, shipping out like a Cam Johnson. I think he could be valuable somewhere else.
Yeah, Dorian Finney-Smith.
Yeah, Finney Smith.
Yeah,
That's
maybe we
exactly
can
what
get
I
a
was going
potential
on.
Ben Simmons and Philadelphia 76 reunion going on here. So
Hey, if he wants to come, hey, look, I said this a minute ago. I said this when we traded him to Brooklyn. If it ever comes to where Ben Simmons will take a step back, humble himself, and just allow himself to be a backup center, I will take him on my squad. I will, because I think at center, rebounder, facilitator, defensive prototype. He's a great defender. We know that, right?
Yeah.
At least 4 years ago he was. I don't know now.
Yeah, but
it's an interesting thought, right? Like it could work. Like,
but the thing is, like he could start though. If he take more like a Draymond Green approach, like
yeah, I agree.
type of role, like, but he could be more aggressive offensively because he's more athletic than Draymond.
I just don't think the Sixers would dare.
No, they wouldn't, bro. Like he shouldn't want to go back because the fans, bro, like it's a win, man.
Al Horford minus the 3. Al Horford minus the 3 is kind of not that valuable, though, to be fair.
Nah, hell no. We'll be honest with you. Not at this stage of his career, no.
Brunson and Knicks are really good in the East now. Yes, I do agree with that. And I think, to your point, what you were getting at with Mikal Bridges is, like, also on top of, like, getting out of, like, that funky Brooklyn setting, you get to go to New York, you're going to play with Jalen Brunson, who gets a ton of attention. Dante DiVincenzo spaces the floor. Josh Hart is all over the place, right? So, like, he's going to get space to work in New York now as well.
And they still got Randall as of right now anyway, so.
Yeah, exactly. I'm interested to see what they do, man, because now that I'm thinking, like, there's no way Randall's coming off the bench, right?
Nah, I don't.
He's not settling for that. Maybe you bring Dante DiVincenzo off the bench though?
Yeah, like Josh Hart or Dante definitely, and they would have no problem with coming out the bench, bro. Like they want to win.
You could go Brunson, Mikal, OG, Randall,
starting center.
Damn, and I'm forgetting about Hart. I didn't even throw him in that original starting lineup, and I feel like he will start, man.
But I feel like Josh and Dante could embrace coming off the bench though.
Interesting.
Like for real. Then they got Deuce McBride over there. That could be a
That
nice
would be a
trio coming
crazy
off the bench.
bench.
Yeah. So I feel like but let's talk about OG though, man. Like, I mean, what are your thoughts on that contract, man? Like, let's talk about that.
I think if you're the Knicks, it's not, again, similar to Mikal Bridges. You kind of have to, like, in a sense, like, you can't trade for him mid-season, give up what you gave up, and not bring him back. So it's an overpay once again. Would I want my team to do it? No. But I think they had to. I think, like you said earlier, going all in, like buying all in, putting all your chips on the table, and I think that's exactly what they did. And if it pans out, if OG Anunoby can stay healthy, that's a great contract. I will say that his biggest thing is just his injury concerns. So I do think that fit, it worked. He played really well once he got there. They played really well together. I wanted to ask you this about the Josh Hart comment though, but who do you think is honestly better for the starting lineup for the Knicks? Like Josh Hart or Julius Randle at the power forward spot? Like like when you think of it from a connector piece, like that's how I'm thinking of Josh Hart. That piece that just glues everything together. He's going to get rebounds. He's going to pass them out to open shooters. He's going to run around. Like defensively, I think he's a little bit better. He's a better rebounder.
He's tough nose. Yeah.
But it is Julius Randle. Like, this is a 20 to 25 point scorer per game.
Yeah. And he just coming off an all-star season, so maybe you could argue that Josh Hart is the better fit, like you just mentioned, for all the right reasons, like being that connector, making all the right reads or whatever. Because there has been time where you could argue that Julius Randle has, like, like staggered up the offense, like
shoots too much. Like,
shoots less ball movement when he's out there, like
especially
more
with Brunson on the squad.
Yeah, more ISO ball, so I could see that standpoint, but it's just the
what's
vision
his
of
value though?
Around the value.
Yeah,
You
like
could
around the
definitely get
league.
some nice pieces for him though. You really could. Like,
I feel like you could.
Yeah, you definitely could, man. Like a lot of good depth.
I'm trying to think of who like would be interested in that. Like a good fit.
Contending teams should want him though. What are your thoughts on him on the Sixers though?
It was circling in my head. I don't think the Knicks and Sixers would ever do business, but I know him and Embiid are really good friends for sure.
Yeah.
So maybe a 3-team deal where he gets routed to Philly, that could work. Mm-hmm. I know Philly fans if they're watching, they probably fucking hate me saying that. I don't know, man. I'm this offseason, I'm keeping my mind open for the Sixers.
Yeah, you have to, man.
I'm not closing off any avenues because I've seen things go south. I've seen us strike out, and that's never a good thing. So I'm honestly keeping options open. But yeah, the Sixers next to Embiid. He shoots the 3 ball. Sometimes, like we said, he shoots a little too much, but
yeah, he gets in that mode.
Put it this way, he'd be better than Tobias.
I knew he was going that way, bro. That's actually why I brought. That's actually why I brought that up, because I knew you was going to say that eventually. I just knew it, bro. But anyway, though, with OG contract, though, like, for all the right reasons, like you gave up RJ Barrett and you gave up Emmanuel quickly. Like, you have to do this. Like, you just can't lose him for nothing. And I mean, he is one of the rare wings in the league today who can legit guard 1 through 5. Like, he guarded Joel Embiid in that playoff series, and he did a pretty good. Now, obviously, Joel was injured, so I'm not just going.
It was a good job, though.
I
mean, anytime you can guard Joel.
Yeah, he did a pretty good job. So, I mean, you have to pay him, and then another thing, like, don't he got like a trade kicker in that contract or something like that? Like,
I'm pretty sure.
If he gets traded, like he gonna get more money. So
even more money.
One hell of a contract, man. So shout out to OG and his team for getting the bag, man, for sure. And hopefully you can slide us some of that, man.
Yeah, let me get some of that bread, man. That's what I'm gonna say to the first dude that signs a max here. Like Maxey, when he gets that max extension, he's got to throw the fans a little bone or something, man. Yeah. Speaking of Tyrese Maxey extension, I heard that he wants a trade kicker in his contract too.
Man, interesting.
It's fair. I think it's fair. We made him wait around kind of, throughout
Yeah,
this season before we gave him the
yeah,
extension he was due for it last offseason. We make him wait. So he deserves a little bit of assurances there in his own contract. I can get with that. I would give Tyrese Maxey whatever the hell he wants. But
yeah, for
I
sure.
wanted to ask you one more question regarding the Knicks. Looking at these moves that they made, barring, some decisions down the line, maybe they trade Julius Randle. Maybe Isaiah Hartenstein doesn't come back. Maybe they go small ball with Julius Randle at center.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know. Like, I'm
yeah. I was
not.
about to
You
say.
never know.
Yeah.
But where do you view the New York Knicks in the league right now, as far as a contender, and especially in the Eastern Conference? Where would you put them?
Overall in the league, you could say they're a top 5 team at the moment. Like they have a lot of good talent on their team. You just added Mikal
Yeah,
Bridges, just re-signed OG. We don't quite know if Julie's going to come back, but if they do trade him, I'm sure they're going to get
you're gonna get
yeah,
something.
they're going to
Yeah,
get something good back in return. So I feel like they're a top 5 team at the moment. Now in the East, I definitely say they are right behind the Celtics. I feel like
yeah,
as of right now, clearly constructed, like they
yeah,
have the players to match up with them at the moment. So I feel like they're right with them. So yeah.
yeah. I do agree with that. Honestly, I think I talked to you on Twitter about this a little bit, and I said, like, I'm not putting them with the Celtics. I'm putting the Celtics kind of in their own bubble, and that goes
Yeah,
for the
same here.
entire league
Yeah,
in a
same
sense,
here.
right?
Yeah.
But they are right there. Like, out of the rest of the East, they are the team
Yeah,
that
they're
is at
right
the
there.
head of it. They're the second best team in the East. Teams like Milwaukee haven't had a chance to make moves. Philly hasn't had a chance to make moves. Cleveland, down the line, right?
Yeah,
Pacers,
Miami. Yeah, Pacers,
Miami.
Magic. Yeah.
So we'll see what they do. But I mean, to start the offseason, this is a hell of a start for the New
Yeah,
York
this
Knicks
is
to get
like
ahead of the field.
when I look at the moves they made, that was like they setting the tone. Like they literally set the tone for
Yeah,
everything.
it's a good way to put that. I like that. They did. They kind of set the tone and they set a very high mark
Yeah,
for the other Eastern Conference teams to match.
right.
Because you expected OG to be back. That was kind of like the contemplation, right? Like, is OG back? Will he go to free agency? Blah, blah, blah. But then you slide in Mikal Bridges
Yeah,
trade, and then you also sign OG back. That's
yeah,
when
man.
it almost feels like you made two moves, even though you're just bringing OG back. It feels like you
Yeah,
made two additions in a sense. So
yeah. And
it's going to be interesting
some of the
to see
picks
how
that
it
they
plays
got in
out.
the draft, but you can argue was pretty good too, man. So
Why
yeah,
am I blanking
they,
out here? Who did they end up getting? Let me just take a look here.
um, I don't know if they had a first round. I for sure know they had a second round though.
They did. They it looks like they had the unless this was moved. Oh, my bad. This is round 2. New York Knicks. Yeah, so they did have another French player. So they originally drafted Keyshawn George at 24, but they traded that to the Wizards.
Okay.
So they drafted Pacome.
Yeah.
Did I?
I think
Once again,
he's a forward, I think so.
yeah, 6'8", 217 out of France. Big, strong, and extremely young wing who finished his season in Germany on a positive note. Yeah, so once again, like we talked about it. I mean, looking at the guys that they may draft, we talked about like their roster so far. They might not need too much from the draft, anyways. Once they fill out their roster and add like
Yeah,
little
once they
signing.
get that, Julius Randle thing under control, do they keep him?
Yeah,
And then
Mitchell Robinson.
Isaiah Hardenstein, Mitchell Ross, what you're gonna do? And they're pretty much set, man.
Yeah,
Your Sixers and my Warriors, man. We gotta,
we got to catch up.
we gotta catch up, bro. We gotta do
How do
something,
you
man.
feel about the Warriors? Like, where are you at? Like, would you rather bring like a Klay Thompson back, or would you rather look at like the Paul George scenario and possibly I've seen crazy things like Kuminga in a trade. Like, I don't see why you guys would trade Jonathan Kuminga in this trade, but
Nah,
talk to me. Like, where's your head at? Like, what are
nah.
you
I
looking at if
mean,
you're the
if I'm
Warriors?
being honest here, bro, like I'm not trading Kaminga, bro. Like I
Yeah,
know we have this. We don't have much long of trying to like go after a championship, but I'm just not trading him, bro. Like
not for Paul George, man.
not for PG, bro. And like I think there's a way that we can get PG while also retaining Clay Thompson. It just depends on how things go, but it's a
Like if
lot
you
of
can
ifs
move
with that.
CP3.
Yeah, and then Andrew Wiggins and things like that. But it will have to like Paul George would have to opt in because then we would have to trade for him. If he opts out, then that would kind of make things difficult for us to get him. So
Yeah,
he would
off
have
the
to opt
market.
in. But yeah, I would love the addition of Paul George, man. Like him and Steph, be a pretty nice duo. They can feed off each other pretty well. Like according to Stephen A. Smith, he's not a good catch and shoot player or whatever. But I mean, the statistic says otherwise. Like whatever, bro. The stat says otherwise, bro.
Yeah,
So
that's where I'm at. Like whatever.
yeah, yeah, whatever. But yeah, man, it'd be something good. Like get Steph like a second star. Like
Yeah,
you look
a
around the
second
league.
scorer, right?
Yeah, like everybody around the league has it, bro. Like
Yeah.
there's contending for a championship. So we could definitely use a guy like him, man, for sure.
Now, when you talk about Kaminga, this is just a random ass question because KD's name's been in the air. What about KD?
Would I move Kaminga for KD?
Yeah, bring him back to Golden State.
I would. I ain't gonna lie. I would. I
He's a
would.
different tier. Yeah, I
Yeah.
feel
I
you.
mean,
I
this
feel you.
this this is Kevin Durant we talking about here, man. My
Kaminga
name
is
is.
really good though. Like
He
I
is,
do
man.
feel
Like
you. I like his
Kaminga
game.
could be a perennial All Star in this league, man. Seriously, and he
Yeah,
has the tools to be
it's only
very
21.
good defensively as well. So it just takes time, man. But if I had to, I would love to keep this man, bro. Serious, I would love to. But
I do feel that. I feel that, bro. Before we get out of here, man, anything else you got on your mind? Anything else you wanted to throw on the table, man?
Nothing at the moment, man. I mean, free agency start Sunday. I mean, what's a better time than then? So just be prepared, man, for a lot of
Yes,
things
sir.
to go down, like trades and guys potentially going down to different teams. So this would be fun, man, for sure.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I do believe we will be live on Sunday evening-ish, right? Depending on where you're located.
Yeah,
Free agency, I believe you told me it starts at 6 Eastern, right?
yeah, 6 Eastern, yeah.
6 Eastern. So we'll be on here roughly 4:30-ish, 5-ish Eastern Standard Time. I know Slim's on a different clock there down on the Central Time, but yeah, we will be live on Sunday. We'll break down just predictions, right? If any rumors are going on leading into the free agency. And then we'll catch up sometime next week to kind of recap the start of it. But it's a busy time, my man. I'm glad we could get the show in today,
Yes,
recap this
sir.
draft. It was an exciting time last night. Guys, before we get out of here, 33 of you guys in here, head over to the YouTube channel, NBA To The Galaxy Pod. You can search in To The Galaxy Pod on YouTube, and you'll find us. Hit that subscribe button. Be sure to comment on the YouTube page because that's where we're going to see your comments. We can get you involved in the show and get your pretty faces up here on the screen like us, right?
Yeah.
So definitely hit that subscribe button. Turn the notifications on. Be sure to give my man Slim Man here, Slimster, a follow on Twitter at RTR30111. You can find me at Scotty Drown. That's going to be it for this episode of NBA To The Galaxy Pod.
Peace.
Everybody.